Hey guys, little side note here. This is one of those issues that people struggle with when you tell them, go ahead and enjoy life. It's a good thing. Hullinger, he puts it this way. He says, Ecclesiastes is presenting material dealing with the writer's investigation of life and the limitations of man in order to show that there are many things we do not understand. Because of this, we should then respond by obediently submitting to God and enjoying life. So here's the question that I want to answer today. How do we do that? How do we enjoy life? And really what I want to do is I want to take the time. I think there's 5 questions. We can have a million of these. But what are the 5 questions we should ask? First question we should ask when trying to determine whether we should enjoy life is this thing I'm about to enjoy condemned by God or not? Obviously, there are abundant of things where God has said, do not do it. Okay, obviously, that's a pleasure we should not indulge in. But question number 1, is this thing condemned by God or not? Second question, is this thing good for me right now? Paul would say that these things are lawful, but all things are not expedient. Okay, and the idea is not saying all things are lawful. Okay, he's obviously talking within the confines of what God has allowed. But what he's saying is, even amongst all these things that God has allowed, all of these blessings, all these wonderful things, not everything is good for me. So here's the question. Is it condemned? Is it good for me? Next one. Am I living for the short term or the long term? Obviously, we understand there's a lot of things that are pleasurable, but they're probably not what I should be doing right now. They're only pleasurable for the short term. In fact, that is one of the reasons why we don't sin, is because sin is only pleasurable for a season. It's not pleasurable for the long term. It's not healthy for the long term. In fact, it's heartbreaking in the long term. But even outside of sin, there are things that are pleasurable that really are only good for the short term. So why bother wasting the time? So again, is it condemned? Is it good for me right now? Am I thinking short term or long term? Also, the next question, I believe, is this idea of, is it claiming my heart? And what you do here is, this is the idolatry test. Is this thing taking control of me? Is this pleasure I have allowed ruling me, or am I ruling it? And the Bible will present this idea of a wise man's heart is at his right hand and a fool is at his left. And the explanation of this, if you understand that a king would be sitting on the left-hand side with his counselor at the right. And so a wise man is going to be someone who lets his heart be a counselor, but he's guarded. But a fool is someone who lets his heart, which, his passions, lets it rule him. It's sitting to his left. And so that's this idea of is this thing ruling me, or am I ruling it? A last question I think you can ask is this something I can actually thank the Lord for? And so that's where Paul will say things in the New Testament that there's nothing to be refused that you can accept with thanksgiving. Obviously, you'll never be able to accept sin with thanksgiving. You'll never be able to worship idols with thanksgiving, like not in a right sense. But what happens is, can I thank the Lord for this pleasure I'm experiencing? And that's this idea of godliness, because what's going to happen is godliness is keeping God in your thoughts, keeping God in your mind this whole time. So really quick, those are the five questions. Those aren't just 5, but those are 5 questions you can ask that will help you understand whether this pleasure is a good thing or not.